Hello, everyone. Welcome to this talk. Today we have the opening dialogue for empowering women through social gastronomy. My name is Caroline Busatto. I'm from Brazil, and today I will talk with a group of women about unlocking women's potential. A brief story about myself. Well, I co-lead a movement called Dona here in Brazil. We have already trained over 2,000 women in business and self-knowledge. And also I work for companies through projects that are linked to gender equality. This is a very, very important theme. And today we are going to talk a little bit about how we move to action and how we open spaces for all women to occupy the spaces they want in society. Please feel welcome. You can use this space to comment, to ask questions. And I would like to invite my three invitees to present themselves, starting with Chandni.
Hey there, everybody. It's great to be here today with you. Thanks for having me. My name is Chandni Gilbride. I work in sustainability, inclusive business, and international development, and I've spent most of my career actually acting as a consultant. I'm currently running my own consultancy supporting companies, so private sector companies, small and large, on their journeys toward becoming more sustainable businesses and more socially impactful businesses. And I started my career in global health back in New York City. Ultimately, I moved to Mumbai and continued working in global health. But global health moved from infectious diseases to chronic diseases, which led me to nutrition, which led me to food. And I think that's what I'm super passionate about, the intersections of health, food, gender equality, and technology. And so I had the great pleasure of being able to work on projects across the world with amazing women's organizations who are doing incredible work. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you today. A little bit more about me, just at a personal level. I'm from New York. I was raised by Indian immigrants right outside of New York City. And I currently live in southern Sweden, relocated here about a year and a half ago.
Thank you, Chandni. Please welcome Donia.
Hi there. Thank you, Caroline, and thank you for inviting me to this conference. My name is Donia, and I'm from Paris, France. So I was born in France. My parents are from Algeria. And a few years ago, I decided to set up my own company with two other people called Lumna and Youssef. And we were really interested by entrepreneurship, innovation, cooking, and discovering new culture. And we also been raised by women that have a gift for cooking, and we didn't see them on TV or on any big restaurant. So we decided to create something to shape a new ecosystem where women could have the power to do what they want to do and become chief. So that's how we ended up running Meet My Mama. And Meet My Mama is a social enterprise that reveals the talent of women through cooking. And we have a catering, so we organize big events for big companies. And we also have a school, an academy called the Mama Academy, with the aim of professionalize, inspire, and support all the women that want to live by their passion for cooking.
Thank you, Donia. Please welcome Judith.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me. I'm super glad to be here. My name is Judith Höffkes. I'm located in Berlin, Germany. I work here as a project leader at Über den Tellerrand, which you could translate as Beyond the Plate. We are an organization that organizes encounter of people with and without refugee experiences. And we do this with cooking. Basically, we use food as a tool to just organize meetings, to organize encounter. We have by now 37 locations all over Germany. We are pretty big by now. And I think we have a great experience with kind of really use food as this universal language, basically. Prior to Berlin, I lived in Jerusalem, where I managed also a place of encounter for activists from Israel and Palestine. And there I focused in basically creating safe spaces for women. So I basically was really into building networks internationally, but specifically cross-culture of Israel and Palestine. So I know a few things about safe spaces for women, and now this aspect of how you could use food to organize just meetings.
Thank you, Judith. Well, I want to move to the first theme, which is from frustration to inspiration, and then from inspiration to action. As women, we all share stories of frustrations. It could be like somehow one day we discover that prejudice exists, that we are treated in a different way, and when we are all together, we collect these stories of somehow one day we need to act in a different way to occupy the spaces. I also share a story. I don't know, I didn't plan to work with gender equality, but it happened. And I have a personal story. One day at work, one man, we worked together, and he yelled at me. Everyone listened, and then later that day, I went to talk to my former boss, and she told me, "You must have done something." Somehow it hurted inside. And each time I raise a voice for a woman, I really remember this personal story. And I remember that we can somehow by acting, we can do something different. And this is the point that I want to know about you girls. Do you have it's about a frustration that started with your work, or it was like something natural, an observation? So I would like to start with you, Donia. Can you share with us, please?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a day, but it can be, I think, observation that I had during my whole life. I started actually understanding that I was privileged since I was like a little girl, because I knew that I had chance, and I knew that I had everything in my life to do whatever I want, and that other people don't. But when I was like 10, 12, I knew that, but I didn't know what to do and if I have to do something. And then I went to university, and I spent a year in the United States. And it's in the United States where I understand that engagement was something to do in your life. In Paris at that time, 10 years ago, it was not that easy to engage yourself, and it was really difficult to find organization. On the contrary, in the US, like everybody was volunteering. So that's the first time where I understand that I should engage myself, and that a lot of prejudice were in life, and that if you don't do anything, well, it will just still be the case the whole life. So I decided to start engage myself, but I didn't know that I was going to focus on women. And actually, it's a meeting that I had with women when I was volunteering in a shelter, and then women in my life, actually, because I didn't notice it before. But when I came back from the US, I was like, oh, that's true that where I live, there are a lot of women, they don't have a job. It's not like they don't want, but they just don't find it. And there are a lot of reasons for that. A lack of confidence. They don't speak French, because if you come from another country, it's not you don't want to speak French. It's just a really hard language. So you need to have time to take courses. It can be kids. If you have kids, well, you don't have a lot of time to do something else if you have to struggle with kids at home. So I started asking questions to myself. Well, there are a lot of women, they have a gift. And for me, it was cooking, because I was living in a city where women were cooking a lot, and they were giving to me a lot of food. And I had to wait until I was 22 when I met Lubna in an internship, where I found out that my observations were shared with Lubna. And we started talking, and we found out that in France, there are a lot of women that have a gift for cooking and that don't know what to do with it. It was in 2015, and there were a lot of refugees. So it was the beginning of the refugee crisis. And when we were talking to them, they were just telling us that they wanted to do something with the food, because food was a universal language and that can maybe cure like the society. And that's how it started. And then we met Youssef, who talked about his mother. And it's actually all of this observation that inspired me. And today, when I see those women, when I see the resilience of those women, it inspires me, and it gave me the strength to do a lot to make them realize their dreams.
Wow, thank you, Donia. I even got emotional. When you say that about women, refugees, and food as an universal language, I really feel the same, and how important it is to do this in France, where food is a religion.
Exactly. And also, when you talk to some women, we have a woman from Syria. She told us that the day she left Syria because of the war, at that time, her husband was a doctor and she was a dentist prothesist. The thing that she brought in her suitcase was her spices and her cooking materials. That's the first thing that she took with her, because she was, okay, I'm leaving Syria. I won't see Syria again like today, but I want to bring with me the taste of Syria for my kids, and I want them to grow with this reminder of Syria.
Wow, super, super. It's amazing how it can be really food as a universal language. And as a universal language, I feel that it's the place that it's natural for women to start even a business, because it starts on their kitchens and everything. And this leads to a lot of spaces for us. And I would like to hear from you, Judith. Can you share us your personal story? It started also with a frustration or not?
Yeah, like, of course, I have also personal stories, what kind of like really defines me today. And I also am happy to share it. I kind of want to reply, though, half of what Donia said, and want to tell what inspired actually our organization, why we were like founded, because I think it really fits here. We were founded also like 2013-14, which was kind of like the peak of what the media called the refugee crisis, right? In Berlin, it was pretty big. And there was like a movement of people with a refugee experience who camped in the public places to just like, first of all, they didn't have housing, but they also organized politically. And we always had a bit the feeling like we drove by there and there was no really, like they were there and we lived somewhere and we went to university and there was like maybe an internal idea of solidarity, but there was no encounter. So one day we just went there with really cooking, like, how do you say, camping cookers, like these really cheap things. Also as students, money was not really a big thing, or like we didn't have huge resources, and we just went on this camp and said, okay, we have a bit food, we have a bit things to cook, let's just do it. And this is how we started today, this really huge movement in Germany. And I think this idea is really like, have a feeling of, why don't I talk with these people? Why, like, I'm sure we have something in common, but why, how can I start this bridge? And this is where we are today. And I always love this idea of keeping it simple and just do something. So Donna, I had to share this. Maybe one sentence on a personal level, which is maybe also a bit linked to what I try to do today in our organization. I was also pretty much privileged most of my life. Things went kind of really okay career-wise until I got pregnant, actually. I'm a young mother of a kid of 3.5 years old. And when this happened, first time basically in my life, this notion of I can work a lot and people will see that I'm good pretty much was shaked. And the kid was a huge bummer to my career. And today at my organization, I really try to set examples. Like I first of all try to be a mother that works to show that you can do it, or you at least can try, and that it's okay. And I also try to be really open-minded about my feelings of when I'm overwhelmed, or like to be really honest, because I have a lot of young colleagues, and I really try not to just set an example. And I love that I can do this at an organization that is open-minded for this. So I always try. It's really, really, I think it's really important to just change the environment that you're in, because discourses always change, and you can change the discourse. And yeah, I think these are the two things that really inspire me.
Thank you, Judith. There are 2 points that you talked. One is this point is how the motherhood is like a game changer for women, and it's linked to self-confidence and any other points, and we just treat it as natural. We don't like put this attention with a mother that is working or trying to earn money, but also is thinking about his or her son. This is a very important thing for us to keep in mind, and to create those spaces where this can be talked about. And for me, the way you were talking is little bit about from inspiration to action, like acting to show what is possible, to talk about your feelings, and saying that it also as a mother you get overwhelmed. And the other point is that somehow we start the movement as something small, and things spread in a fast pace, because for me it's something like the world needs this kind of change. The world needs gender equality, projects, initiatives, action, and everything. But I'm not going to talk more about it, because I want to hear Chandni, and then we are going to have the opportunity to talk about it. Go ahead, please, Chandni.
It's really tough to follow those two. I suppose what I want to say directly to you, Donia, is when you mentioned that woman who brought her spices from Syria, one of the first things I packed in New York before I moved to Sweden was my mom's garam masala. So you could get that authentic gar ka khana taste, which in Hindi means, the home food, the home feel. You're in a completely different place, but food resonates across all boundaries. And Judith, what you had mentioned about, this need to be honest and open in the workplace, I have found that I've been increasingly doing that since the pandemic started. And, for these last 2 years, have really tried to express the way I feel, express, where I need boundaries. And to be honest, moving here to the Nordics from the United States and having worked with a lot of Asian countries, I have found that, it's okay to do that. And I feel much more comfortable doing that. But when we talk about this idea of frustration, I'm really glad that it's the first thing that we're discussing today, because we need to be honest that these challenges are going to exist in the work that we do day to day. To be a woman, and then to be a woman working specifically in gender inequality, is to be frustrated almost all the time. On a personal level, I was frustrated that I made less money than my male counterparts. As an immigrant, our mothers fed us and ate last, and that's how I was raised, and that's what I watched. In my work, I've been frustrated that at times even I don't realize that there are inherent inequity issues that are driving what's going on. One of the biggest projects that I worked on was trying to help an American company launch its operations in India by ensuring it could secure dairy inputs. It doesn't sound like it's something that should be related to women at all, or is related to women at all. We knew that we wanted to work with smallholder farmers, subsistence farmers who are literally have 2 cows, or drinking most of the milk and then selling it on. And we wanted to make sure that they were part of, the economic outcomes of a company moving in. And what we quickly realized was that it was the women who were doing all of the work. And I didn't even realize that. I walked in thinking, all right, I got to work with male farmers. I got to figure out an infrastructure plan. I got to figure out capacity building and training. And I have to do this as a woman, a young woman myself, who was also, I'm American, but I'm of Indian origin. And ultimately it came down to, no, we have to restructure this whole thing and make sure that we're providing these trainings for women, and figure out how to make sure that we can get them in the door. make sure that, the cultural norms weren't going to stop this progress. So yeah, that was frustrating, but I think from a lot of this frustration permeates inspiration. And I think when you're frustrated, you can see both inspiration, small things and in big things. I've been inspired by immigrant mom and dads making sure that their daughters are more educated, that are more financially secure, that they live in more equitable households where there's, a nice divide in family and what we do. I've watched, even in my relatively short career, women take all different kinds of positions. We often talk about women CEOs, but, women who are analysts, women who are community leaders, women who are middle management, that's great too, and we need to be empowering that as well. And in the work that I do for women, I have been completely inspired by the tireless, relentlessness of these women every single day to support their families and support their communities. And for me, it's been a call to action. I think working with women is like a rising tide raises all ships. When a woman succeeds, it essentially means that the community succeeds, that the family succeeds. And that's really what inspires me to do what I do every day.
Thank you, Chandni. When you talk about the frustration as a fuel for us to act, I feel like, and I hear many people thinking out loud that they are too small to make a difference. And what I think the four of us, we are here to say that we are not small. We started like in person. And when we start acting, people start to come and people start to gather, and then the initiatives, they somehow started to flourish. And exactly thinking and talking about this subject. But first, I want to say that comments are open. If you that are watching us, if you have any doubt, please don't hesitate to ask us. We will be very glad to answer. But what I like to say is that here today we are a voice and we are paving the way for other women. We really wish in the depth of our heart that it could be easier. And I think this is one of the intention of these talks, how it could be easier for other women. And in some moments, I feel that they put many women in the room, but it's not only a women-only subject. We have to involve other actors. We have to involve also men. So what I want to move a little deeper here is what are the ingredients we need to foster opportunities to women, and who needs to be involved. And this time, I would like to start with you, Judith.
Yeah, thank you. So I actually, when it comes to actors, like who do I try to have on my side, basically, I always try to have a double strategy in my head. I try to always approach people of power, also not only women, right? Like women is always a great idea, but sometimes it makes like especially sense in these things to have kind of also men at your side. So I think it's always really good to have a certain kind of attitude, also to believe in what you do, and also a bit, just go out there and approach people and also demand things. And sometimes you can also shock people with demands in a nice way, so they just say yes. So sometimes this is a really good strategy for me. Then apart from people of power, and this is also something what I love about my organization is that we try to really include a lot of people with diverse perspectives. And I think especially at this time, it can be pretty painful to do this. Like we in our organization really try to open our doors and to also like approach people, like not only in this Berlin left-wing bubble, but also sometimes people with a different kind of like also political language than us or something. And like this process can be painful. Like I'm also sometimes in conversations where I have to breathe and have to kind of come a bit outside of my like comfort zone. But I try to see this pain as part of the process and just to like counter it in. And I think it's super important not to lock yourself into a bubble, but just like to open the doors, because this is the only way where change is possible. And sometimes I feel we tend to forget this one a little bit. So these are the two things I would mention.
Perfect. It makes a lot of sense also too. When we talk about gender equity, we also talked about diversity. This is the meaning of intersectionality, and we need to start by doing something. And I think this is very, very important, and also looking out of the bubble. How about you, Chandni? Do you agree? Do you want to add something?
I totally agree with everything Judith said. I was just nodding along the entire time. I think so much of our work, we cannot act as independent operators. So much of the work that we're doing is within this ecosystem and within systems that exist already. And I think it's important, to maybe build on what Judith was saying about getting out of the left-wing Swedish bubble, New York bubble, Mumbai bubble. We have to recognize that we need to sort of use the language of our audiences. When we talk about unlocking potential, one key thing is funding for programs, right? And you're often ending up going to philanthropic organizations. Maybe you're starting a company and you're going to a VC, or you're trying to get a loan. Or maybe you're, what I'm doing, I'm trying to convince corporate actors that it makes sense to invest in these programs that uplift women. And we have to really figure out what is the language, what are their own agendas, what are they trying to achieve, and how can they see themselves in the work that we're trying to push forward. So I think that's a real key to sort of unlocking a lot of this. And, to talk a little bit about the ecosystem that we might actually be working in, we have to be aware that there are different cultural contexts, whether we're working with refugees from Syria, whether we're working with, young women in Malmö, whether we're working, in like what I've been doing, working with women who are subsistence farmers in Gujarat or in Punjab. That all has their own cultural context, and we have to be very respectful of that. And what I think and what I want to push may not necessarily even be what the women are comfortable with. So we have to be very, very mindful of that. And the last thing I'll say is, there are always other actors. There are going to be men and there are going to be children. And these are very, very sensitive topics. And oftentimes, especially in more culturally conservative situations, men can feel threatened if we're trying to just work with the women, and it's really important, I think, to make sure that even though it may not always feel great, but we're going to have to sit down. I've had to sit down and talk to village elders and leaders, and I've had to go and make sure that I've had conversations with husbands and brothers, to make sure that they understood what it was that we were trying to achieve. And I have found that when you do that and you have open conversations and you listen, they can end up being some of the biggest advocates for some of the work we're trying to do. It doesn't always happen, and I don't want to be naive here, but I do find that you can definitely bring people along and get people on your side when you act in that way.
Perfect. I totally agree. And when you talk about the power of conversations, they have the power of changing everything. And this is why we are getting together today, because we want this also to change, to be a voice of change. And when I feel that when we segregate men from the conversation via when they feel treated or something like that, we are not including. We are creating another bubble, the bubble of women. And this is why it's so important when we say actors, we say people of power, we say public sector, we say private sector, we say people who have funding, people who are looking for projects. We need to do the talk. And also here, I would like to hear a little bit about Donia. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, you actually said a lot of things, so I don't have many things to add. But like you said, you need to create an ecosystem. And I think the word ecosystem is really good because that's what you need. You have to be organized, you have to be prepared, you need resources, financial resources, materials. And like you said, Chandni, we need also men, because usually when we talk about women empowering, it's like weird to see like men. Actually, it's normal and we need them and they need us. Like, it's not a fight. We don't have to see it like a fight, like women against men. That's not the thing. That's not the debate. And it's stupid actually to think like that, because that's not the we need all of them to go ahead and to change the society. Otherwise we won't change the society. We maybe change a minority, but it will not be a systemic impact. We also need to, like you said, Caroline, work with the public and the private sector, because usually, I don't know if it's only in France, but I don't think it's only in France, but we are mainly, when we talk about public and private sector, always it's like a fight. No, like they have a lot of money, and no, we fight for the people. It's like, no, we need all of them. And if you want to have a systemic impact, again, we need a lot of money. And today, who has also a lot of money is companies. So that's why this ecosystem has to be plural and needs everybody. And we need to make noise also, because without the noise, without the social media, the impact won't be like large and we won't touch everybody. And last thing that you said, Chandni, we need to also train the men in a family. Like, for instance, when we have mamas that become chief and entrepreneur, you can see I don't know if it's the same word in English, but the yo-yo phase. So at the beginning, like they're with their wife, oh, that's great, that's amazing, go, go, go. Then she go up and she starts earning money. She starts maybe earning more money than him. She starts becoming known because companies know them. Then the media came, etc., etc. And the husband, well, he's kind of afraid, and it's not like in his nature he doesn't want her wife to become the best. He's just afraid. And in the society, unfortunately, they don't have all the pedagogical tools to understand what is it to become a chief and entrepreneur and so on. So husband and also children have to be prepared, have to be supported, because even the kids, when you have your mom that she was always with you at the house, she was waiting for you with food, and she was doing everything in the house, and then now she started working, she started becoming a chef and an entrepreneur. Well, she doesn't have the time that she had before. So even for the kids, we always talk about the husband, but sometimes it's the kids that have problem with that. So it's like a pedagogical things to do to really gather everybody for one cause and have a systemic impact.
Well, thank you, Donia. You just made that wrap up. Chandni, you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to just add to that, Donia. I think I could never be as eloquent as you were on the last bit, so I'm not even going to try, but I agree completely. But what I did want to do was maybe just talk a little bit more about the private sector, because I think you spoke so eloquently on it. And it's really been where I've worked for the last decade. I started my career really with foundations and NGOs, and then 2008 financial crisis, we realized we needed to engage the private sector more because donor dollars were totally drying up. The one thing I can say about the private sector in particular, in my experience, is that at the beginning, I'll be honest, when I first started in this early, 2007, 2008, I felt like a lot of this was lip service. We need to give out grants to make us look good. We need to, do that kind of stuff. Now, I think increasingly the private sector is realizing that if you do not tackle these issues, it is a fundamental operational problem for you. I'm actually working on something that's it's in food, but it's more broadly on climate, biodiversity, et cetera, et cetera. And if we don't work to create sustainable products, work to engage the right supply chains, which always include women, we might not have a business in the future. And I just wanted to sort of stress that point because I think it's important. The landscape is changing.
Yes, and hopefully the game is changing in a accelerated pace. Donia, when you talked about ecosystem, this word is so like sharp, because when we talk about ecosystem, we also talk about what is alive. The nature is an ecosystem which is alive. And when we talk about the things that are live, we talk about context. And we know that context, it may vary due to culture. For instance, in Europe, you have like this thing with refugees. In Brazil, here in Brazil, we have like problems with hunger and extreme poverty, which is also really, really hard. But there's also a common language. When Donia was saying that men and children need to be prepared when women start to work and start to earn money, we also have here like teams, like when marriages they finish due to that. So it's hard to live in a society where when women raise, they have to support the others that need to be supported. So it also, somehow we feel like the weight is over women's shoulders, but it started to change. So I think now we move to the change. And what I like to invite you girls, and this doesn't have a order to start, but when we are in sessions like this, we are also seeding the future. And the best way to seed future, for me, it's talking about dreams. So can we create here like a shared vision of your dreams? What do you dream for women as for the future, in a scenario where they can occupy the places they want in society? So for me here, I would say that this spaces like this, where we have like different cultures talking together, but also we have like other people supporting this kind of talk that can act, is also a dream coming true. But I would like to hear you girls.
I can answer, because I think it's what I want is pretty straightforward. Equity, access to knowledge, access to opportunity, and the freedom to live. I think that's really, it's as simple as that. If I could dream for anything, and I know that we live in a world where that's not possible. You know, like I have the combined experiences of living in very liberal places like New York and Sweden, but I have traveled extensively all over the world. I know what's happening, you know, in the Middle East. I know what's happening in Afghanistan. We know what's happening in our backyards here. But if we are able to sort of work together and drive some of that a bit more and make more noise about things like that, perhaps we can make progress. And I do think that it's going to be a lot of continued uphill battles and explaining why these things are so important more broadly. You know, it's not just about, okay, it's good that we have equality and that women are free. Why is that important? What is the financial impact of something like that? Because unfortunately we live in a hyper-capitalist society. That would be the wish and the dream for me going forward.
Okay, please, Donia, go first, because my thoughts are pretty.
Okay, up to you. If I had to add what Chandni said, because she said also a lot, that my dream is to be in a society where everybody can do whatever they want, can be whatever they want, whether they are like from another country, like whether their religion, whether their age, whether like anything. We see it like nowadays. It's really hard actually in Europe, but also in the United States and also in South America. But populism is like something really threatened and really, really close to us. So we hope that we could live in a society where this not happen, and that's not normal to say like I'm going to vote for populism party, because today it's kind of becoming like normal, and the media make it normal. So hopefully in a society where it's not normal, and a society where everybody has a vocation and can live by this vocation, and can be supported financially, materially, and so on. And also, it's really important for me to be in a society where you can be whatever you want, because I think it's really, really hard to be who you are, especially in big companies. Now it's kind of becoming like something that we cares about. So it's kind of becoming more and more important, but still, I think it's a minority, and maybe for you it's the same. But when I talk to other people that are not entrepreneurs, it's really, really hard to be what you want to be, to say what you want to say. You still have to be in, I don't know how to say it in English, but in French, it's un moule, like you have to be shaped in something, and you cannot be outside the circle, like the shape. So really like a society where you're free and where you can be and do whatever you want.
Incubated, maybe, in English.
Yes. Maybe. Like, you know, where we put the cakes. In France, maybe it's an expression.
Like a cake mold?
Yeah, a mold.
Yeah.
Like you have to be in a mold, but hopefully we'll be in a society where you don't have to. Because today it's entrepreneurship that becomes the way of becoming what you want and to do what you want. But except entrepreneurship, it's still complicated.
I actually love that you have so clear visions. I very much envy you here. I kind of have like more, like I actually would like to understand what exactly is going on in society, in the world, like the past years. How did we get here? How do we get out of here? And I, at the moment, think a lot of like this insane division. Like I try now to just focus on Germany, but like we have a very aggressive division, it feels like, in our society, that I didn't feel like this when I was younger. And I kind of always have this, like I mentioned this bubble earlier, like I would like to kind of go out of my bubble more and access more people with kind of like diverse perspectives. And I would like to know how I can do this like in a successful way. And I think this is something like also on a work level and on a like political level, I think a lot about. But I have no idea. It's very unconcrete, but this is a like somehow vision thoughts that I have on this topic.
Perfect. Thank you, Judith. I think it's also important when we don't have a clear vision to talk about it. What is it to have a clear vision? We are living in very, very complex and challenging times. As Donia was saying, the polarization, the populism, and we feel like either you are left or you are right. But in between, we have many, many, many shades. And I think that somehow, if we don't respect it, we are like losing voices. And the voices that are not being heard are women voices. To advocate for a new society, for a new economy, we need to include those voices. We need to understand that women need to be to have participation. What Donia was saying about being financially free, to have a voice, to have participation and everything. This is the concept of empowerment. And if we want to unlock women's potential, we have to truly understand what is empowerment and to understand where and how people they are not empowered. In 2019, with Dona we went to Africa. We went to Mozambique, they speak Portuguese, and we wanted to return to society everything we earned from Dona de Mim, which is a movement we teach women, but we receive so many good feedbacks, and really the word is love. We receive back love, and we wanted to do something for the society. We went to Mozambique, and for me, this was the clear vision of the point that I don't want women to be, because they are a free country in more recent than Brazil. So they have it's like when, for me, it's like when we travel in time, which you travel for the past. And when I go to places like Paris or New York or Germany, I feel like we travel to the future. But even in those places, we still see the same troubles, the same issues that need to be addressed. And this is a conjoint action. It's not about women, it's not about the public, it's not about the private sector, it's everyone willing to do something. And as we are approaching the end of this conversation, if someone has a question or a comment, please feel free to do it. But I would like to ask you girls about living. I know that we touched points that really they it's points of painful points, but even in the frustration there is inspiration. And here I would like to do this finishing theme with asking you a message of inspiration for women, for girls, and for other people that will hear us.
Maybe I can start if you want. It will be short, but maybe a message of inspiration that I can give is that dreams can become true. So dream big. Don't be scared of dreaming. Don't listen to anyone except you, actually, and your little voice, and have faith into destiny.
Oh, thank you, Donia. Go ahead, Chandni.
Yeah, I'd like to build off of that, but also caveat that by saying dreams are very big, but celebrate your small wins. We live in a world of instant gratification, 15-minute grocery delivery, these reels on social media where you see homes being decorated and redecorated in 20 seconds. That's not the reality of the world, and that's certainly not the reality of the work that we do. If we're trying to do large-scale change, especially innovative change that breaks through the status quo, it takes time. So celebrate getting a meeting with the funder, celebrate signing a contract, celebrate getting on the ground and having a bad meeting on the ground, because that's a huge achievement. And also recognize that once success starts, whatever that is, the goalposts are always going to move. Sorry, that's a very American term. It's like a football term, but the line is always going to move. You train 1,000, now you want to train 10,000. You're employing 10, now you want to employ 50. So just be aware that, you every day working on this is a success. So however you celebrate, a glass of juice, a glass of champagne, some cake, whatever, be sure to do that. And the last thing I want to actually say here is that you're going to get a lot of no's as well. And take no as the first step toward yes, especially when you're trying to push the boundaries. If you get a no, make sure that in that conversation you ask, what do I need to do to get to yes? Because betting on women and betting on gender equality is the right thing to bet on. When I said this earlier, and I really do mean this, a rising tide raises all ships. When women have more access, when they have more knowledge, when they have more money in their pockets, it is better for economic growth, it is better for communities, it is better for families. So we're focusing on the right things. That's what I would hopefully leave you with.
I love that. I think I don't celebrate often enough. Oh, sorry, Caroline, I immediately jumped in. Was the idea of cake and champagne that I really liked. So thank you for this. I would kind of say, like, especially when it comes, like, you have an idea and you know what to do now, like, I always love to keep it simple and to just do it. Like, we tend to overcomplicate things. And as I said before, like, if you pass a crowd and you don't know really what to do and how to access them, go there and cook. Like, whatever, keep it simple, do it. It's gonna be fine. And also build up from there. Like, you don't, like, things will work out. It's going to be fine. And also a bit as a sleep deprived working mom, I kind of always like the idea of fake it till you make it. Like, I think, especially when we approach men, there is like, we learned to think that we're not good enough or that we are not prepared enough or whatever. And I said, like I said, in the past years, a lot of tables with powerful men, like with like no sleep in the past days and with maybe milk on my blouse or whatever. And I kind of really learned to just go there, sit there and trust a bit your instincts, and it's going to be fine. Fake it till you make it. They also fake it. So this is something that helps me when I'm down.
Thank you, girls. And to be able to dream big and to start to act, the first thing we need is to believe in ourselves. Sometimes we act like as we are our worst enemy. How we can silence this voice to listen the tiny little voice that Donia was mentioning, the voice of our souls. We are full of talents, and if we don't hear our inside voice to put our talents into service, we are not going to be like completely fulfilled. The other thing, listening to you girls, is that success is not linear. It's like, it's not, as an engineer, I imagine that success would be like this, like linear and crescent. But indeed, it's really a roller coaster. It has ups and downs. But in these ways, we start to understand who can be our ally, who can support us, what is this close group of people that are always like supporting us. And I think that to have this powerful network really close to us, it's really, really important. So find your allies, find people who can support you even when you think you fail. Because sometimes we think that a no, it's like a fail, but a no, it's like, it's not your way. Your pathway is other. Move the pathway. So be glad of the no's you received. It's not the way you should go. So I think this is also important to resignificate no's. And don't quit. If you hear a no, it's not a message for you to quit. We have many in our pathways here. I'm sure that we can, like, girls can add this. We had many change of pathways and many no's in our careers. And the last point, but I think the most important point, is the point Chandni was saying, is that about celebration. The really tiny little steps. The day you had the courage to have a conversation. The day you had the opportunity to talk in public, to talk about your project. Celebrate it. Celebrate with a hug, with a phone call, with champagne, but don't forget to celebrate. We need rituals in our lives. We forgot somehow, like the sacred. And the sacred is to be close to our essence. And we only will be close to our essence if we listen to the voice, we have the courage to dream big and bold, and to fulfill this pathway that it's not linear. Girls, we have like less message minutes. If you want to like comment something or say something. Donia's cat want to comment something also. So if you want.
Nothing else for me. I just wanted to thank all of you for this great panel. Thank the Nordic Talks for having us. It's really great.
Yeah, thank you very much, and can't wait also to talk more with Judith and maybe do something. And everybody that has something related to empowering women, we can also do something.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I
No?
actually also just wanted to thank you, like also thanks for being here. And I actually also, there's so many small thoughts I have in my head now. I kind of really hope that maybe we have chances to cooperate or something. Like it's always nice to step a second back from your daily life and think about the big things. So thanks so much.
Yeah, I'll actually say one more thing. If anybody who's listening wants to reach out, learn more, I'm hopefully speaking for everybody when I say please do that.
Perfect. Chandni, your point just made me thought that we didn't came here alone. We have like a supporting network of people that works with us, that dreams together, and that want to dream with 2 eyes open. So this is also really, really important. And what I like most in this kind of conversation is that we think that the conversation has finished here. But the point is that it has only started. When we do things in this spirit of what is alive and in terms of ecosystem, this is only a new beginning for new stories that we really hopefully that include women and that can make other women also be in spaces like this, spaces of power, because raising your voice is also a space of power. And we really understand by our experience, our personal experience, how powerful it is to be here and to really accept that we want to fulfill all our dreams. So thank you for all the audience, for the supporting partners. I would like to also thank you, the Nordic Council of Ministers and the Nordic Talks. And I truly, and I'm going to say also from the 3 girls that are here with me, from the deepest part of our hearts, that we really want to see alive this world where women can occupy the spaces they want. Thank you, girls. Thank you, audience. Thank you.
Bye-bye.